Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this historic day. It's an honor to be here with all of you. When the President asked me to serve in this role, we talked about the importance of bringing truth and transparency back to the briefing room. And he asked me to ensure we are communicating about the policies across the Biden-Harris administration and the work his team is doing every single day on behalf of all American people. There will be times when we see things differently in this room, among all of us. That's okay. That's part of our democracy.
The Trump White House doesn't think so. They don't think that's part of our democracy. They don't care about what Jen Psaki just called our democracy. Every day, Jen Psaki walked into that briefing room every day for 2 years and took all of their questions and handled those questions masterfully, better than any White House press secretary of the television era. Then Karine Jean-Pierre took over the briefings every day for 2 years. The White House press corps became as openly hostile to Karine Jean-Pierre as they have ever been to a White House press secretary, including the famously beleaguered Ron Ziegler of the Nixon White House, who had the impossible press secretary job of trying to defend a criminal president. The White House press corps attacked Karine Jean-Pierre more than they ever attacked Ron Ziegler, because although there are some able and honorable reporters in that room, as a group, they have absolutely no sense of balance whatsoever. And as of tonight, there is no White House briefing even scheduled, none. And there is not a single complaint from the White House press corps. They could turn on their cameras and scream at the empty podium and televise that to show their outrage at not being allowed to ask a single question of the White House press secretary, but they would never dare do that in the Trump White House. We all know that life isn't fair, and Washington certainly isn't fair, and the White House press corps, for this first week at least, personifies just how unfair Washington can be. We should not pass from the Biden White House to the Trump White House without noting the grotesque double standard that the Washington press corps has applied to Joe Biden and Donald Trump, entirely to Donald Trump's benefit. It's not just Republican members of the House and Republican members of the Senate who know better, who have accommodated themselves to Donald Trump. We all know that Republicans in Congress who know better, who have accommodated themselves to Donald Trump, do that completely out of fear, the fear of losing their re-elections to a Trump-favored candidate. Bravery is not a typical characteristic of politicians, so there's no surprise in politicians, Republican politicians' fear of Donald Trump. And it doesn't take bravery for a reporter to scream at Karine Jean-Pierre in a White House press briefing. And it didn't take bravery for reporters to scream at Joe Biden in the Oval Office, as they did, or in the Roosevelt Room, as they did. But it would take bravery for them to scream at Donald Trump or at the White House press secretary working for Donald Trump if she ever shows up in that briefing room in, say, the next 300 days. Don't be surprised if you don't hear reporters screaming in the White House for at least another 4 years, because Washington is now operating under the Trump standard. And it is not just Republican politicians who are operating under the Trump standard. The day after Donald Trump legally forgave, through commutations or pardons, all of the people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th, including every single violent criminal who was convicted of physically beating and attacking police officers, even some Senate Republicans couldn't justify Donald Trump's decision.
People who committed violent crimes on